Hello and welcome. We are Bleeding Tree Gaming. I am Amy, aka Warpfiend, and I'm joined by.
I'm Autumn Witch.
I'm Peter, the paintiest of painting goblins. Or
And
maybe
this-
not the paintiest.
Yeah, certainly among the paintiest. Among the paintiest goblins. So this is just a hobby progress video. This is August 2023, and I forgot to mute my phone, so I'm just going to do that now.
Bad Warp Fiend.
The only problem is if we have to talk about it.
Yes. Okay. So let's just have a look at some of the things. We're going to talk about some of the things we've been painting over the last few months. It's been a while since we've done one of these. I believe the last one is the end of March. And I'm going to start. So, one of the biggest things I've been painting is my Rave Oryx army, which I took to the Throne of Skulls doubles tournament with my brothers Gargants. Got a lot of good comments on it. I've done 2 videos on it now. You can see the recipe and also how I came up with the recipe on holiday in Austria. And yeah, it was just like a super quick scheme that looks really bright and vibrant and eye-catching on the table. Obviously, I've got all the influences from Prodigy and kind of 90s rave in there. I've got the conversions with the like amps and speakers and the decks and that.
The
freehand
really
cool
flag thing is sticking out to me as well.
The what, sorry?
The Orky logo on your flag.
Yes, the Prodigy logo, Orky, yeah. Bit of audio issues there. So I've really had fun doing this scheme. It's obviously very messy, just because of how quick the models are done, but everyone who's seen it seems to love it. It's just so bright.
Yeah, it's like a stylized messy, which is good messy.
Yes. I tried to employ my bad habits of sloppy paintingness to a good end. And of course, Leviathan came out since we did our last video. I did the Neuro Tyrant, which I've also done a video on. This was super fun. I really love this model. I haven't got round to fully finishing off any of the other Tyranids yet, but they are definitely on my list to do. I've got a couple in the works. I've got refurbishing Tammy's old Flying Tyrant, and I've also got a Carnifex that I'm looking forward to converting, the Screamer Killer.
Nice.
So yeah, moving on. I also did Emma Frost from the Crisis Protocol quite recently. I'm really pleased with this. I actually tried out the white was from a Vince Venturella tutorial, using kind of like red tones as the base, green tones as the mid-tone, and like using the white as the highlight. I thought that was a really fun way of doing things, and it adds just like so much depth to the white. Yeah, and there was also this is a commission I've done on the right here. Just 4 models. They're very basic sculpts, but I put a lot of time into them. And
yeah, I mean, you've got a lot of the detail in there that even at like such a small scale in the image, there's some really nice contrast there, so the details still stand out, even though it's a small image.
Yeah, particularly about these, I liked the leg on the far left one, which I just managed to get a really nice blend of colours on, like blues and purples and oranges and greens and that. And the third one along of these is based on Veruca Salt's dad from the original Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. That's who I modelled the paint job on. Oh, and of course, this one had a little bit of a Chun-Li influence.
Oh, definitely.
Yes. And okay, one last of mine then to show you. I've just finished off Count Dooku, and this was great fun. These Shatterpoint minis, I've got a bunch of commissions for those on my desk at the minute. This was the first one, and they're really large scale compared to Games Workshop, and even compared to the Crisis Protocol stuff that Atomic Mass Games have done.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of room for just experimenting with cool techniques like this. And yeah, great fun trying out dual light sources. I think the red works better than the blue does, but the red just like I'm so happy with.
Well, it's the OSL that sells it so well. That lightning effect, that is absolutely spot on to like the reference material.
Yeah, well, it was a fun experiment. The only problem is it took quite a while to do because I was in effect painting the model 3 different times, like once in normal light, once in red light, once in blue light. So yeah, takes a while to do, but satisfying results. There's also my Moblin, because I was absolutely in love with Tears of the Kingdom, and I found someone selling these miniatures on Etsy. So I'm really happy. I spent quite a lot of time just trying to get the smoothness of all the blends and all the edge highlighting, and there's still a few places I feel I could go back and fix it up, but yeah, it's a fun piece.
Yeah, it looks fantastic.
Thank you.
How many of those lines are all the muscles and stuff? Did you just have to freehand that?
Oh yeah, I mean, a lot of the stuff is kind of based on where the muscles are, but I just wanted to overhead edge highlight everything, so I've actually like circled each muscle and then circled the outside of each muscle, so literally everywhere I could fit in an edge highlight I stuck one in. I thought I'd just do something simple, and just because in the game they're cell shaded, there's like clear demarcations between light and shadow on it, and no edges picking up light. But when I tried that on the model, it just looked like I hadn't done any work on it. I just sprayed it red, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, fun way of doing things. Right, so we move on then. Pete.
So I'm still in the hell of my own making with all the Stormcast models, but I'm getting through them. In particular, I was very delighted by this Relic Ore, so I plucked him out of the otherwise incomplete batch. I don't know why I've sent you the picture of the batch now in hindsight, but I just liked I started painting him and realized that this is some dude carrying around a reliquary, a sacred bones, and presumably the person who was deemed worthy of becoming a relic was the mortal remains that he's carrying around, was then reincarnated into a Stormcast Eternal, and then there's like 4 skulls on it, so he's carrying around 4 of his friends and yelling about it, and that excited me to no end.
I like the idea of that. That is very cool.
His armor itself has bones tied to the shins and to the forearms as well, so it's just everywhere.
Look at me bones.
Look at my bones. I'm gonna come hit you with my bones.
Looks very cool anyway. Yeah, there's so many details on that model. You've done a cool job.
Yeah, it looks great. I'm loving the blue as well. It's got like a hint more depth to it than like a normal blue. It's like a sort of subtle.
Yeah, with this batch, I was trying to do the blue much simpler, but by the time, and just take the what's it called, Cantor blue, and just spread it over a zenithal highlight.
Yeah.
But that didn't work. So then after doing that, I did panel lining in effect with Corex black shade. That's not the word, but the black ink, the black Null oil. That's it, Null oil.
Yes.
And then came back and had to do highlighting with Cantor blue again to get it to look right. And I tried to make it simpler. It actually got harder, but it looked a lot better.
But it looks really, really clean.
I know, but I was trying to simplify it.
Well, that's the thing. The things that look the simplest to do are normally the hardest.
Exactly. Same problem I had with the Moblin. To get something simple looking good, you have to make it very complicated.
Next
slide.
So on the right we have a Cawdor we have a Cawdor champion with his crossbow, and he's unfinished. And I started doing him on stream, I think a week ago, or a week before recording, and I'll probably finish him on stream after recording. But the sort of next day or whatever, I looked at him and I was like, hey, this looks cool with just a few translucent shades over dry brushing. I should try to do that with other models. And then immediately I made it more complicated, which is the stupid sexy Minotaur on the left.
Yeah.
But I'm happy with the stupid sexy Minotaur, and he needs a few more coats to go.
Yeah, I like the purple on the sword you've got for the Minotaur.
That's the primer.
I'll
probably coat. Maybe I'll leave it like that. Maybe I'll coat it with something else. I don't know. I do want to get his gloves and his horns and the horn casing around his tail with some brown. But then I will. And I want to go back and redo his robes with a perp. So this was supposed to be me coming up with a idiot's variation of slap chopping and just made everything more work than it was supposed to be. Sorry to notice a pattern.
Yeah. Well, it's called entropy, I guess. Wait, no. Reverse entropy, where things get more complicated. No, I don't know where I'm going with this. Let's move on, shall we?
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
And the cats!
These are super cool.
Yeah. Thank you for printing the cats, Tammy.
That's okay. They came out really nicely.
Yeah. So the first one I did was the zombie that's slightly out of focus. Oops. And again, with him, I used the same purple primer, and then I used Death Guard green from above, and then it was just sort of a case of filling in the details. What I hadn't considered, the one other detail I hadn't considered was when doing his eyes, it just sort of struck me I could go around the eye with Null oil again to darken the socket and make the rest of the eye more prominent. I didn't need to cover the whole model in Null oil. I could just pick out little parts.
Yeah.
And then I ended up doing that with the skeleton and the ghost cat as well. And the ghost kitty, I randomly chose the colors for the pumpkin, and they turned out to be right.
Nice.
And those bases
are... Orange is a good bet, so...
Oh, sorry. I randomly chose the color for the pumpkin, and then I looked at the artwork afterwards, and this is exactly how the artwork was colored.
Ah, okay. And where are these from, if people want to get them?
These are from... I can't remember. I know they're called the 4 Kitties of the Apocalypse. And it's based on it's based on another piece of artwork called 4 out of 9 Lives.
Ah, okay.
Okay, but these are made by Mini Monster Mayhem, who seems to have made them for something called Atlas Support System. So I'm guessing these were done on contract. And then they were sent off to Atlas Support System, and Atlas is like, yeah, give them away for free, whatever. So
nice.
I think, Tammy, you mentioned that they were something of a nightmare to get out of the printer.
They were at the default scale. They were just so fragile. The legs, especially on the one with pumpkin, turned out to be at that scale. the legs were narrower than the supports.
Ooh.
So that kind of makes sense if these were meant to show off a support system.
Yeah.
Up until for the first while, I was just grumbling that these were sculpted by an amateur who didn't know how 3D printing was working. But these are meant to be a endurance test of a support software. So if you're doing this on another commercial printer, consider putting little rocks under their feet. Consider importing them into Blender or whatever and merging them with some little stones that even everything out.
Or rescale them, which is what I had to do.
Yeah, these are
Fair.
tank-sized, pony-sized. These are the size of the boars that orcs ride.
Looks good to me.
And then I want to do an ultramarine by priming it in purple and then zenithal coloring it or whatever with ultramarine blue and then just going from there. But I'm not happy with how the yellow looks, and I'm not sure what to do about that. I think it looks a lot better with the knee pads painted, which is canonically on some of the Primaris art, but probably have to paint the bolt gun first.
I mean, in this early shot, I didn't know about the purple in there, but now you've said it, I can see that, and that looks really good.
Yeah.
It's much more prominent on the back. I went kind of overboard on the front.
Right.
I always appreciate a new method of doing an ultramarine because I've painted hundreds in the last 30 years.
The yellow's very old school on them rather than the gold.
Yeah.
Yes, I do like that touch. You could go for really shockingly bright with it, or you could get some kind of browns and a bit more white in there and turn it into a non-metallic metal gold.
I mean, an edge highlight with a bleached bone or whatever, it's a shabty bone, something like that on the yellow, I find works really nicely.
Okay. I think my sort of issue is that I've gone for this very, I want to say impressionistic, but I don't know if that's the right word. But painterly then with the purple and then the blue from above.
Yeah.
And then I've got this flat literal yellow.
Yeah. Sometimes a flat color is a good contrast to something more kind of detailed. But yeah, there's a bunch of things you could do with it, and I'm sure we can talk about that later. This is our overview of stuff, so probably best not getting too much into giving you painting lessons.
Again, it's a really smooth blue. I appreciate a really smooth blue.
It's ultramarine blue, not the contrast paint, the layer paint from Vallejo.
Yeah, which is the one that I use on my ultramarines because it is actually ultramarine blue.
Cool.
Tamagotchi, what have you been up to? Wait, should we cut that? Should I never say that again?
I've been called much worse. But
yes, but
now,
that doesn't mean that was nice.
Okay, so a little box set came out recently called Leviathan.
Oh, did
and that's kind of
Never heard of it.
I think someone mentioned it once.
I saw one of those in Warhammer World.
Yeah, so as I was anticipating this set, I thought, oh, well, what am I going to paint the Space Marines? Because I have lots of Space Marines already, and I was getting more Space Marines. And I had a mostly unpainted Death Watch army lying about. And I thought, well, I can make them all the chapters that I want. And so I was going to paint them as Death Watch. And that's on the channel. There's a Leviathan playlist where I do some of these, the characters, the Dreadnought, some of the Terminators, they're up. my recent video before the one that came out on Monday and that no one has watched, is on weathering, which I use the Leviathan Dreadnought as one of the test subjects in that video, and you can see some chipping and some of the pigment powders. I'm quite pleased with that video because it goes like 4 different levels of weathering, but all simple and easy and quick to do.
Yeah, I think you did a really good job on this one. I love how the weathering looks over, like the colours themselves are very bright and bold, but then you've like taken them down a notch and made them a bit more dirty and grimdark with some lovely weathering.
Yeah.
Not like a screaming yellow next to a gentle gradient. Looks much better than that.
Yeah, I mean the yellow on there I highlighted with I believe it was Vallejo Bone White, which is their equivalent of Screaming Skull. Yeah. And I think that what that does, it just desaturates the yellow ever so slightly, but also maintains like the block of color. And then I did a lot with enamels as well, using Tamiya panel liners just to like get browns and blacks into various areas around rivets. I didn't do it over a gloss coat because I wanted, rather than for everything to just run into the recesses and stay, I wanted it to like stain the armor and sort of like run a bit and get some like streaks on there, which is something that I've decided I'm going to do on absolutely everything I paint. Because there's a hypnotic element to just touching this tiny little pinprick of paint somewhere and just watching all the detail appear.
Oh yeah, it's very satisfying.
Yeah.
Yeah, those two are good. Move on to the next page.
Yep.
And here's some wider shots of some others you've done.
Yeah. There's my Blood Angels Chaplain. That's like my reference model whilst I'm doing the new ones, because I mean I painted that about a year ago, but in order to keep everything consistent, it's like always there, just sort of off to the side, so I can just check that everything's matching. But the Terminators that we see, especially in the one with the Chaplain, that's what I call decal bashing, where you take one decal or transfer and then you use it to represent something else. You modify it in a way, and this was in my last video, but this is probably the easiest version of decal bashing.
Who's tapping?
It's not me.
Oh, sorry.
Are you trying to signal to someone that you need help?
No, I didn't think the microphone would pick that up.
Oh, yeah, it is pretty badly. So, sorry, listeners.
But yeah, the Leviathan set came with like a decent transfer sheet, and there was some Raven Guard stuff on there. And because a lot of Space Marine chapters use a lot of the same basic markings, some of them are identical except for color. All I did was stick a white Raven Guard transfer on a purple background, and when that was set, I used Imperial Fist Yellow to just tint the transfer with a small or a thin brush.
Yeah, and that's a really cool method.
That is the canonical symbol of the Hawk Lords chapter. So
there we go then.
Yeah, there's so much potential on loads of different transfer sheets, even if it's just recoloring.
Yeah.
A transfer or mixing two together or such and such. But yeah, so yeah, my last video sort of went into that in a bit more detail.
Lovely, lovely. Yeah, you've certainly got a fair army of these Death Watch appearing now.
Yeah, I've been a bit of a hobby magpie the last few months, but I've been kind of trying to focus on getting something painted up and together and ready to play with,
Yes, yeah.
rather than half painting something, sticking it in a box and moving on to half painting something else and then sticking that away. So yeah, I'm trying to focus very much on Death Watch at the moment.
Lovely, lovely. So there you are then. I mean, between the lot of us, we've had painting experiments, we've had pieces we're really happy with, we've had things we've struggled with. But yeah, we've just been enjoying hobbying, and that has been our summer of hobby.
So
Bring on
leave
the
a
winter.
comment with your summer of hobby.
Yes, yes. Do what Pete says.
Yes, as we move into autumn and I come into my power, hopefully I shall have a Death Watch army ready to game
Awesome.
with shortly.
Well, look out for more videos on that and some upcoming ones, including my Count Dooku one coming soon.
Nice.
Ooh.
And we will see you soon. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Like, share, subscribe, tenant. Bye.
Bye.